Hello chess family, it's me National Master Jesse James, and today we're going to be going over two different ways to beat the Smith Morra Gambit. That is right, I have two different lines you can choose from, well, to just get a better game in the Smith Morra by accepting it. Let's go and take a look at one of my favorite ways to do this, and this is a nice game from Stopka against Kushnik. And well, here we go. We start with e4, c5, d4, d takes, c3, d takes on c3, knight takes on c3. We got the Smith Morra Gambit accepted. One of the best ways to play against Smith Morra Gambit accepted is to do the e6 variations, which, the d6 are not too good because, well, the bishop gets an open diagonal over here. So we keep going with knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. All this is book. And now we get one of the two. And in fact, I would say this one is a much easier version to play than the other one. Is you play bishop to b4, which seems like a very strange move because, well, this dark square bishop is supposed to be very good for us for the dark squares. With that being said, it takes a lot of sting out the game because this knight right here, well, a lot of times against the e6 variations, knight d5 is one of the killer moves. One of my rules is whenever they play e6, you must go ahead and play knight d5 at some point to sacrifice in the opening. If you don't get that, well, you're probably going to have a hard time unless you're able to get a bind in with pawn to e5. With that being said, this bishop b4 does its job and really stops a lot of white's attack here. And well, white continues with castles over here. Knight g to e7. This is one of the reasons why we play the pawn to e6. And here, you could play the bishop to g5, which is recommended in most lines. But because we got the bishop out over here, it doesn't matter so much because we can still just go ahead and castle. And here we got two moves that you can look at and, well, that I'll recommend. Here you can do the bishop takes c3, which, well, although I do like these ones, I don't like giving the dark square bishop away right away. It is good because it is going to go ahead and, well, it's going to give you this isolated pawn over here, and it closes the c file, which is one of the ways that white's very used to attacking. Notice here on the b file, it's not so good because black can just go b6 and everything should be hunky-dory. With that being said, the other move that you can play is the way that Stopka plays, and he plays queen to a5 right here, which is really cool. And, well, it's one of the main moves a lot of times in these lines. And, well, a lot of times you're just going to be able to go ahead and get your pawn back to d5 at some point. So, well, you could just go ahead and do that. So in the game, he went ahead and played queen to a5. Knight to b5 got played, and this is a very nice aggressive move looking toward attacking on the dark squares. You can see that d6 and c7 are very weak here. Also, one of the ideas I like here is playing this pawn to a3, b4. I mean, if you give one move here for white, they will be winning this game. With that being said, there's only one way to play here for black to get a good game here. And this is one of the key ideas of why it's so good that you got your bishop out here. All right, black to move. What do you play here to keep the game going and get a good position? All right, remember, this is a very thematic move. What are you supposed to play here? Believe it or not, you get to play pawn to d5. Another good reason why this knight, getting rid of it, is going to be so good. After bishop takes c3, a lot of times with the knight there, d5 gets played, and then you just up an extra pawn. And this is exactly what happens here. You're going to be able to get just equality in this game. All right, pawn takes, bishop back to f4. A nice little sneaky move here, looking for the knight to c7 check. Castles happens over here, bishop to d3. I mean, you're more than welcome to go ahead and look about some of these lines of like bishop c7, but they really don't impress here. Pawn to b6 just gets played. If you want to go something like knight c7 here, it's just going to be simple. Just go ahead and take here on c4. Knight takes on a8, and well, black is just doing really well here with knight to d5. A nice tempo here, and we're going to be winning this knight over here pretty soon. So, just go ahead and keep playing chess here. White went ahead and played bishop back to d3. And here you can already see that black has gotten everything he wants. He's got his extra pawn, and he's gotten his development finished. If you're playing the white side of Smith Morra, like I like to play, you know that things have gone wrong here because, well, you've lost all your compensation. The rest of the game is just fun, so we're just going to go ahead and look at it, and then we'll go and take a look at the next game. So here we go. Queen back to d8, bishop c7, a little annoying move here, but Stopka is not afraid about this. Queen over to d7, pawn to a3, bishop back to a5. Of course, trades are going to be good here for us. Bishop takes, knight to e5. Again, looking for some free tempos. It is a little awkward here, but not too bad. Queen to d8, rook over to e1, knight back to c6. Again, the trades are just going to help us out. Knight back to f3, knight to g6, queen to a4, bishop d7, queen b3, looking to put pressure on the d5 pawn. And here a very nice move, knight to f4. Look at this beautiful knight. It's defending the d5 pawn, and it also is attacking on g2. Remember, as Kasparov said, a knight on f4 and f5 is worth a pawn. And, well, it's definitely going to be that in this case. Bishop back to f1, queen over to b6, queen over to a4, putting a little pressure on the knight, so the knight goes ahead and jumps back. Queen back to d1, attacking the d5 pawn. And here you're more than welcome to keep the pawn, but I like the way Stopka does this. He goes pawn to a6. Queen takes on d5, and bishop e6. So now he's at least winning the exchange here. So, well, Alexander or Kushnik just went ahead and played rook takes on e6. After these fireworks, and, well, she's just going to have a bad position. Pawn takes, queen takes check, king over to h8, knight d6. This might have been her plan, thinking that, well, there's going to be some compensation here. Unfortunately, there was not enough here. Queen just takes on b2 here, and rook over to d1. You're more than welcome to play knight to f7 check, because, well, rook just takes, queen takes, and, well, black can just take the rook over here. So, back to the game. Rook over to d1 got played instead. Knight over to e5. Again, these trades are just coming. Bishop over to c4. And knight takes on f3 check. This bishop move is pretty nice because it does threaten a checkmate here. So you do have to be careful about that. G takes on f3. And knight e5 stopping the checkmate. Let's go ahead and say black was not paying attention. And I don't know, play something like rook over to d8. It's white to move and win. Do you see it? Hopefully you do. This is a very nice smothers mate. It's queen to g8 check. Notice that the king cannot take as the bishop defends. So rook has to take, and then knight f7 would be checkmate. Of course, he's not going to fall for this, and that's why he played knight to e5. Guarding this f7 square. It's -7 now. Here we go. Bishop to d5 defending the pawn. Rook to f6. Queen to e7. Queen to e2, and that's it. That's game over. Here we have too many threats here. One of them being the knight takes on f3 check with the undefended queen here on e7. And there's really no good way to defend in this position. With that being said, she went ahead and resigned. Let's go ahead and take a look at the second way that you can get a winning position against a Smith Morra. This is one that I play most of the time whenever I'm playing it, because I play the Smith Morra as white and black. And, well, let's take a look at this fun idea. Here we go. We start with e4, c5. Pawn to d4, c takes c3, d takes. So here we go. We got our Smith Morra Gambit accepted. Knight takes on c3, knight c6, knight to f3, e6. Again, this Scheveningen kind of setup is definitely one of the best ways to play against it. Bishop c4, pawn to a6, castles, knight ge7. This is definitely one of the moves that I think is really the best way to play, because if you ever play the knight to f6, you'll know that white's very happy to play pawn e5, get this nice little backwards pawn over here, and control the dark squares. So that's why we always play the knight g to e7. Alright, what happens next? Here, Esserman says, bishop g5 is just going to be good for you. Unfortunately, there's a new move that's been hitting the streets, or the chess streets that is, and that is this pawn move to h6. This is a really cool move, and a lot of people will make the mistake here because they know that Esserman says play bishop back to e3 after this. This is only done when f6 is played. After f6, yes, I agree, bishop e3, I've played this as white. I'll even be going over some games with this, showing that white is much better. And I got a very nice win with this a few times. With that being said, this is h6. So bishop e3, there is nothing to be said about this move. Here, black is just much better. Pawn b5 gets played. Bishop back to b3. And, well, you just continue playing. The knight will come to g6 at some point. And, well, the knight to d5 sacrifices just are not impressing here. So, back to the game. You must play after h6, bishop to h4. And, well, I really like the way that black played in this game. And here, typically, I will go ahead and play this pawn move to g5. With that being said, there's another line that you can play here, which is this queen to a5, which is interesting again. The idea is to try and get them to move their pieces around so that, well, you can waste time over here. But really, what we're trying to do is get out the pen for just one move so we can get this going. And, well, the other move that you can play here is pawn to d6 here, too. With that being said, I like to play the aggressive live and go. Here we go. G5 right here. But he plays a very interesting plan that I usually do not do, which I will be trying in my games. After bishop G3, knight to G6 gets played, which I play. Rook over to E1. Makes sense. Knight D5 is the idea. Pawn to D6. Everything's being shut down. You can see that black has really good control over these dark squares. Knight to D4. Knight to E5. Nice tempo off the bishop. Bishop back to B3. And here he goes, h5. And this is an idea I have not tried out yet. With that being said, the computer is giving this a negative 1.6. Almost 2 extra pawns in this position. You should be up just 1 extra pawn. But, well, black has really good chances on the kingside attack over here. Typically, what I would do is play something like bishop g7. And I will say I do get good games here. But I typically try not to play the d6 pawn, as this can get weak here, with the bishop not being defending it anymore. But with that being said, I do get some kingside attacks happening with h4 or f4 in the future. So I definitely want to try out this really cool idea of just playing h5, and well, let's just send it on the king side. And this is a very fun game, so we're going to finish this one off too. Queen to c2 gets played, and you're asking, well, can't he just go h4? He can, and he does. Why not? h4 gets played, forcing bishop takes, and here knight takes on e5. I did think it was interesting to look at this d takes on e5, but here it is not a good idea as it gives white too much compensation on the open files. So knight takes on e5 is the best move here. Rook over to d1. It looks like white is doing a very good job. All their pieces are developed. They're all looking like they're going to attack. But with correct play here, it's a -3 now. So, well, here black continues. g4, no slowing him down. Pawn to f4 gets played. And here, well, the only good move to play, g takes on f3 en passant, right? When you have en passant, you must play it, and this is definitely the case. Reason being is you're going to get this open g file here, so now you can just attack. It's really cool here that, well, with the king still in the center, you would think he'd be very weak, but there's no way to open up the files, at least without letting black defend. All right, here we go. Pawn takes on f3, queen over to f6, a nice developing move, putting pressure on f3. Queen over to f2. Bishop h6, you can see how black just does a very good job developing. And look, even controls this f4 square here, so no f4 ideas in the future. And here, well, which way do you think black's king is going to go? He's going to be going queenside, of course. You could stay on the king side, but with his open files over here, you're going to want your other rook to jump over here too. So king to h1, bishop to d7, knight to f5, and this is, well, I won't say it's the best move, I will say it's a practical move, because, well, again, like as I said earlier, if you don't do something in this position, black's just going to castle queenside, and then, well, he's just going to attack you. So white plays knight f5, like I said, it doesn't do what it should do, but I think it's a good practical choice that I would probably do myself, because if you don't sacrifice here, black would just trample you. So pawn takes on f5, knight to d5 here, a very typical idea, looking for a nice tempo move. And well, here, well, black only has one good move in this position, and all other moves are going to be losing. Simple chess, what do? Queen goes back to d8, pawn takes on f5, and here, bishop c6. Here, f4 can get played, but it really just doesn't do enough damage here. If after bishop c6, f4, what do you play here? Simple chess. Bishop takes on f4, and that was the point of this tempo move of bishop c6. It's just in a pin. So here white played queen d4 with, again, the f4 idea as the queen can now take. But here black just plays f6 and says everything is just hunkered down here. You're more than welcome to win the piece, but at least I'm going to have my pieces doing well here. So here we go. f4 got played. Bishop takes on f4. Queen takes on f4. Queen over to a5. Again, this knight is just super solid in the center here, and definitely one of the best pieces. The only one that rivals it is this knight over here on d5. Rook e4, castles queenside, and now you know things have gone well. Black has this beautiful knight, this bishop's aimed over here, and now you can see that, well, whose king is weak? It is definitely this white one over here. The game ends very nicely. Knight e7 check, king to c7, rook over to c1, knight to d3. This apparently was a blunder, and here white should have gone knight takes on c6, b takes on c6 with rook e7 check, and here white gets good attacking chances. With that being said, they did miss it, and well, they got a little too aggressive here and played rook takes on c6, and now black was just able to defend. Pawn takes, queen e3. Nice little idea here to put pressure on the knight, and also on this a7 square. Only one way to stop it. Knight c5 defends both. Knight to g6. Rook over to h7. Here, good, just guarding this e7 square. Rook e7, rook takes, rook over to d7. Queen takes on f6. And here, well, black is just winning here. Knight takes on b3. Pawn takes, pawn to h3. A nice little pawn move that here that makes some checkmating threats. Queen to e6. And now, well, game is over with queen to a1 for check and mate. Guys, what do you guys think about this video? I'm very interested to know if you guys have found something better. But these are the lines I've been using, and I have a plus score whenever I'm playing against Smith Morra as the black pieces, whenever I'm using this bishop to b4 system, or I'm using the idea of h6, g5 idea. If you did like what you saw, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe, and, well, we'll see you in the next video.